Today we're going behind the scenes to show you how Hyland Hills turns this into this. But before we do that, let's have a quick word from our sponsor.
Uller Parks. Are you a ski area that still uses paper logs to document your park setup? Come on, we all know that those are gonna get filled with grease or just not filled out at all. Switch to the Uller Parks app, which makes logging your park as simple as opening the app, snapping some photos, and hitting save. Learn more at the link below. Well, what's going on, Midwest skiers and riders? Matthew Zaransky with MidwestSkiers.com, and today we have a really fun video as we're going to be taking a deeper look into how Hyland Hills builds one of the most iconic parks across the Midwest. And to do so, we spent the night with the Snow Pigs setting up the season's opening set. But before we get into all that, there's much more behind the scenes, and it all starts with feature fabrication. Like many ski areas across the Midwest, Hyland Hills designs and builds its park features in-house. From January through the off-season, the team assesses its inventory of jibs and decides what needs to be replaced or fixed, what is missing in their lineup, and just what could be fun to add to their sets. They then order or reuse steel from old rails and projects to fabricate or rework new features for each season. Last year, they built 14 new rails and reworked 9 as well. All the features that need it get a fresh coat of paint, and the rust is ground down. Each feature is then closely inspected for any burrs, degraded plywood, and any other imperfections so they can be brought up to standard. This off-season, they created labels for every jib in their park library and documented them for easy identification and maintenance history as well. Currently, Hyland Hills has over 145 features in its lineup. That's absolutely crazy, especially for how big Hyland is. So now we have our inventory of features, but there's an even more critical ingredient to building parks, and that's snow. Before placing any features on the hill, Hyland builds a large enough base to ensure plenty of snow to work with when building, which also ensures that cats and riders will not hit bare ground throughout the season. Hyland aims to build up at least 3 feet of compacted snow across their entire park before they build, and they have markers on the rope tow towers that help indicate where they are depth-wise that they can check while making and pushing out snow. And although that might not sound like a lot of snow, the small park alone is over 140,000 square feet, and at 3 feet of coverage, that's over 400,000 cubic feet of snow, or about 4.5 Olympic swimming pools of snow. And that's just the base. Then Hyland will build more snow in areas that they plan to build their tables, shelves, or pads, whatever you want to call them. Tables are often built in parks to position features and allow operators more wiggle room to adjust things like takeoffs, landings, and rail position. Hyland typically uses tables for the majority of their features. During the snowmaking process, these tables are shaped and pushed out in preparation for the season's first set. Their location is determined by a mixture of where the whales of snow end up piling up and historically where they have worked really well for feature spacing. Generally speaking, Hyland usually has 3 to 4 tables per line, which comes out to be about 10 total across their entire small park. During this process, the cat operator will also shape the landings for their jumps, and when shaping landings, cat operators aim for about 24 to 28 degrees for smaller jumps and 28 to 30 degrees on landings for larger jumps. Once the tables are set, it's time to hit the whiteboard to design the park. The team takes input from what worked in previous seasons with a mix of something new and creative to hone in on a feature set for the build. The focus when designing the park set is to ensure that there is something for everybody to enjoy. Mr. Stika will then use his library of features to draw in where they want to place each feature during the build. Once the game plan is in place, it's now time to execute. The team sets out after the ski area closes for the day, and they will typically start from the bottom and work their way up. The team uses a Piston Bully 400 Park Pro along with a skid steer to help in gathering and setting the features. All of the features are located in the rail yard, which is right above the center chair. The park builder, in this case Stika, will be in the cat and will work with the skid steer operator to coordinate which features to grab. Then they will remove them from the rail yard using the skid steer and will be handed off to the piston bully. Some of the smaller features can be moved down the hill using just the skid steer. It just depends on the feature's location, weight, and size. Once the cat operator has the feature on their forks, they will then move it down to the desired location and work with their team to line up the feature. The team member on the table will ensure the correct position to provide enough space for building takeoffs and shaping the landings, while the team member uphill will ensure that the jib is perfectly straight. When the position is dialed in, holes are drilled using an electric ice auger or ice auger drill bit, and then the feature is lowered into position. The holes are then packed with snow and the feature is left to set up or freeze into place while the team works across the hill to position other jibs on the park. During this build, we ended up setting about 10 rails and it took us about an hour and a half or so. But obviously we weren't done just yet because all of those features need takeoffs, including our jumps. So we jumped in the cat and began the building process. Building lips and takeoffs is a skill set that takes a lot of saddle time and practice. The process involves blading a small pile of snow to the rail, then back blading and shaping the takeoff to the correct angle. Then the operator will use the blade to clean up the edges. Eventually, a hands crew will then come in and later rake out the final details. A similar process is used when shaping takeoffs for jumps, but the process takes a little more time and care. Potential run-in speed, transitional space, and jump distance are all critical in determining the ideal angle for takeoffs. Takeoff angles can also vary greatly depending on the goal of the jump. More beginner-focused jumps will have less intense takeoff angles, while more advanced-focused jumps will have slightly steeper takeoffs. This all equates to years of experience in a cat understanding the relationship between all of these elements to shape the desired takeoff for each jump. However, regardless of the operator's experience, no offense Stika, Hyland tests all of their jumps to make sure that they're hitting their desired feel. Lastly, the entire park gets a fresh groom and all of their features are then documented. Hyland uses Uller for their park documentation, making it effortless to store years of records securely. Then all that's left to do is splice and hang the rope for the chaos that is opening day. Thanks again to Uller Park for sponsoring this video, and if you want to see the most up-to-date park set over at Hyland, download their app and we will drop a link below. I also want to give a huge thank you to the crew over at Hyland Hills, specifically Stika for putting up with me and teaching me a thing or two about park building. But until next time, I hope everybody has a great week. Pray for that snow or cold temperatures, and I'll see you out there.